Alright, so in this bonus lesson, as I mentioned, I wanted to show you how to use 3D Modeler but in VR, and this is my preferred method to create an organic sculpt. So it is a really fun and very intuitive way to creating anything really, but mostly for organic kind of like creatures or anything that has a much more organic shape. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. I'm gonna put my headset on, and you'll see how the user interface changes immediately. I only have my two controllers and nothing else. It's a pretty clean UI, so it's very immersive, and you can focus on creating stuff. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to press my tools button, which is the one at the bottom of my left hand side, and I'm going to click on this icon right here to activate symmetry. So now I can use my trigger on the right hand side and just like start sculpting. It's as easy as that. So you can just create like a like a stickman figure and then start like building it up if you want to. However, I'm going to show you my preferred method, which is a lot more control, and it's sort of like refers back to what we talked about in the first videos of this series, where you have to block out your shape before you get started with the details. So I'm going to create a very simple shrimp-like creature, but the principle is pretty much the same. So I have a couple of spheres. I can use the joystick on my right hand side to scale it up and down. I can also scale it non-proportionally by pressing the button on the top of my right hand side. So I can just press that and move my joystick around. So let's go ahead and start with something like this. And the most important concept for VR is the scoping in and out. So on the left hand side, I have my joystick, and I can scope out by flicking the joystick down. So now you see I don't have anything. I can only select. So this is basically your scene assembly. So I can take that and move it around if I want to. Also with the left hand side joystick, you can undo if you flick it to the left. But let's go ahead and press tools again. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on clay, and I'm going to add another sphere, right? So I'm going to also enable symmetry, and let's go ahead and scale this up a bit, and let's add something like that. So I just have a couple of spheres I just scoped out, and let's do one more. So press the tool, and I'm going to click on this one. This is one of my favorite tools. It's called the spline tool, and this one is one of my favorite because what allows you to do with the right hand side joystick, you can scale up and down just to change the size like I mentioned. But if you press the edit button, which is the top of my right hand side, it sort of like connects the two joysticks, so I can stretch this out. So this is great to do like very organic shapes. So let's say we can increase that like so. You can also use the left hand side joystick to change the tapering, and up and down to change the shape of this taper. So I want to create kind of like the body. Let's actually flick it to the other side like that. So I can create like a very organic sort of shrimp-like body like that. Very easy. And then if you want to create maybe some limbs, I can just go ahead and bring in a capsule, for example. So with the capsule, you can sort of create the arms like so. Let's scope out and then create a couple one. So basically what I'm trying to do here is recreate the same principle that I show you with the desktop mode, which you have a bunch of objects that I can select and move about, right? But they're not together, or they're not combined together, right? So let me just show you how the resulting piece of blocking this for my creature looks like. All right, so here is the blockout for my creature. As you can see, it's a very simple shape. It's kind of like a shrimp with massive eyes, but every single piece that I have set up for the creature, for the proportions and everything, are separate pieces. So I can just go in, select that one, and move it like so. I have a couple of like distorted spheres that I use for these sort of like spines, but every single piece, even the torso, the fingers, are just separate pieces, right? And that is the whole point, that you can spend time figuring out the proportions, the shapes, the primary kind of like silhouette of the creature, just with very simple objects, right? And once you're happy with this, you can go ahead and merge them together, because this is just clay. And the way that you merge things together is actually really simple. However, these are the basics of the primitive. So the next step would be to adjust these volumes. So what I like to do is bring in my tools, select this warp tool, and I'm going to use elastic in this case. I just prefer it because it allows you to, it has a very elastic effect, so it adjusts everything or affects everything in one go. So let's undo that. But because we have the ability to go in the different objects, so for instance this region right here, I can go in by scoping in with the joystick on the left hand side. So if I press up, I go in. You see the rest is kind of like masked, or you cannot touch it. And then I'm gonna use this tool to adjust the volumes here. Maybe you can push this closer like so. And the same thing with everything. So scope out, scope in, adjust, scope out, scope in, adjust, scope out, scope in. This could be like the belly of the character. So the same thing, I just spend some time making sure that all these volumes and all these transitions are working together nicely. All right, so once you have the adjustment of the blockout, you can move on into the merging of all these tools. So let me just show you the result of that. Okay, so here is my creature. I just went ahead and modified all the volumes, but as you can see, they're still kind of like individual pieces. And I added these, you know, I don't know what this could be, like these extra limbs or you know, design that I think it looks quite interesting. And those bits are done with that spline tool that I just showed you. So it's very, very easy. Now, something cool that I want to show you is if I scope in into this one, for instance, I can bring in my tool elastic, I can scale it, and I can press my trigger and rotate my joystick. So if I click and hold it and I can rotate it, you see I can create this very nice sort of like ribbon-like swirly things. Right, so that's how I adjusted this. You see, it's very, very nice and intuitive to create this type of more complex shapes. Obviously, that's not what I'm going for, but I just wanna show you how that was created. Although that looks pretty cool. All right, so the next step is to merge things together. So what I like to do is select, let's say, the entire arm, and that is done by pressing on the joystick on the right-hand side. So I'm gonna select all of these, just hovering over and going closer to select them all. So now I have selected the arms, and then from the tools, I can go ahead and click on this icon that is the merge selection. So I'm going to merge all these layers. So now this piece is a single piece. So those are the arms. And then I can just go ahead and scope in, and we can use another tool like the smooth brush, which is actually attached to your trigger on the left-hand side. So I can press the trigger with any other tool and start smoothing that out. So you see this area right here, we can start blending it together nicely. And I'm just using my left mouse or my left joystick to rotate the entire object around while I smooth this out. So now this looks a very nice and natural, you know, object that was made out of a bunch of them. All right, so let me just show you the result of the entire object or the entire creature merged together, and we can move on to the next step. And here we have the final creature. As you can see, this is now a single object. Right? The only difference is that I left the eyes separately, and that's simply because I want to be able to attach a different material that is a bit more reflective to the eyes, but that's it. So I literally have two objects. This one that is made out of, well, it's just a single object, but it was made out of a bunch of different pieces. But you see everything is being integrated. I just merged everything together and started using the smooth brush. That's pretty much it. That's how easy and how quick it is to create this type of creatures and this type of more organic shapes in VR. So what I'm gonna do now is finalize this creature and, you know, add it to the final render. But as I promised, I wanted to show you some decals and extra things that you can add into the texturing process. So let's jump back into Substance Painter. All right, so here we're back in Painter, and you might notice a couple of extra things that I added. I just added a bit more dirt, and you know, the same technique that I showed you with the instancing layers. So it's just a bit more dirty and old and damaged. But the thing that I wanted to show you in this bonus lesson are all of these additional things that I added. So these stickers and decals that, you know, it brings this to a much more interesting level, I suppose, where you can add absolutely anything that you want. So like brands and logos and stickers. And it is actually really, really simple. So that's what I wanted to add it in this extra sort of like lesson. So let's go ahead and add something in here. I have prepared these ones. So I have some of these stickers that I made myself. I made this in Photoshop, like nothing crazy, just, you know, type some random stuff and create some of these barcodes. And I saved this in a square format image as a PNG. So basically this bit, this is basically what you see, is just a square image, and the rest is transparent. And that is important so that when you import it, it will preserve that transparency. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and import one of these ones in to show you how it's done. Again, it's very, very easy. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on my image and I'm gonna drag it in. So you don't have to import it into Substance, although you can if you want to. All you have to do is just drag it in and let go. So you drag it in on top of whatever you want to add. And I'm just gonna select my, base color instead of mask. So we've used the mask before. In this case, I'm gonna use base color. And that's it. That's how easy it is. So if I bring in my layers, you see it's been added here at the top. I'm gonna give it a yellow color so that you know which one I'm talking about. And just like we did before, we can go ahead and manipulate this, you know, and place it whatever you want, right? So maybe scale this down. I'm just gonna leave it there. It's gonna be a bit random to have it there, but I think, you know, it's just to illustrate the point, right? So now we have that nice decal, or that nice image or graphic that we added in, and you can do that with multiple files. Painter allows you to import Illustrator files or SVG files, so you know, you have a lot of possibilities by doing this. In fact, you can potentially just bring in a simple icon and create the text directly into Painter, so you can also edit it. But yeah, that's the end of the tip. There's one more thing I want to show you, which are like literally adding stickers. So this one right here, for example, you see is slightly different. It has you know, this material, and it's a bit, you know, it has like some falls and stuff. That is something that comes with Painter. It's actually really simple to do. So let's go ahead and do one here so that you can see how easy that is. So in the materials, I'm just gonna type sticker, and it's this little icon, custom sticker. I'm just gonna drag that in there, right? And that basically creates the, you know, the same thing that I have here. So it's just an image that has some parameters, and you can totally customize this, right? So you can go into the properties of that sticker, and let's go ahead and open something like the wear and tear. So you can add a little bit of edge wear, so it's going to damage the edges of that sticker. We can reduce the intensity of the falls, because, you know, they might be too intense. You can add a little bit of a fall towards the corner. So now we have that corner that is being like scratched away. You can change what the sort of like the fall is happening just by changing this. I'm not a fan of this part anyway, but you can add damage to the sticker, so it starts to peel away. And this is just like the basics, right? So I'm just going through some of the, you know, the parameters that you can change, but you can explore this quite a bit. Now, the way that you add your image is that you can go to the input image. So let's collapse this one here. So you just need to drag it in here. So I'm gonna use the same one, just so that you can see it is the same thing. The same thing that I use, and I'm gonna drop it into the custom image, and there we go. So it's the same thing that I have here, and that's it. So now you have a sticker, and it has a little bit of depth as well, and you can control all of that from these technical parameters. So you can remove the outline if you don't like it. So that's give you this is gonna give you like a simpler sticker, or you can add a thicker outline and maybe change the color to something else. So you have a lot of possibilities. It's very, very simple, and if you want to reposition this for whatever reason, you can just go to your tool, to warp tool, and place this in there, right? So that's how easy this is. I just wanted to show you that extra tool because I think it's really, really powerful. So all I have left to wrap up this entire series is to show you the final render with the creature inside. So let's go ahead and jump into that last bit. And here we have it. This is the final render in 3D Stager, again, in the same way that I showed you before. So you can see the creature already within the orb. And as you can see, because like I said, I was rendering with the GPU, with the graphics card, with the RTX 4090, it only took 10 seconds to render this high quality at a high quality preset and in this size. So the actual size, if I click on actual size here, you see it's a pretty decent quality. You have like a really nice ray tracing. I add a little bit of depth of field. It's barely visible, but it is there, and you can see the nice sort of like refraction of the orb and the little creature inside as well. So I'm just gonna go back into the design mode so that you can see. I just added a couple of extra lights from the last video. So I just have a point light here that is kind of like giving me this warm light from the back. You kind of like see a reflection here. There is another tiny light on top of the creature, just because I thought it was important to highlight the head a bit. And there is another spotlight just to add some highlight here on the right hand side. So let's go back into the viewport here, and I'm just gonna select the creature just to show you what I exported. So this folder right here is the creature, and if I toggle off the entire other object, let's also toggle off the lights. Here we go. So here is the creature. I just did a very simple texturing work on it. Very basic, very simple, but you know, it's enough, and you don't see that much of it anyway. So I just wanted to complete this project with that creature in it, and that's about it really. Once I add the rest of the object, there we go. It completes the effect, and it has the distortion of the glass, which is controlled by the IOR, or the index of refraction. Alright, so that's it for this entire series. Hopefully you have found it interesting, and I just want to show you the final output that you get from Stager in Photoshop. So this is the PSD file that I exported. You see it's a very nice quality, and you get a bunch of passes that you can use in compositing. So if I enable this, you have this selection mode, so you can select it, actually this one is the clown pass or the ID pass. So I can use the select color range, select something like the screen, for instance, and it will automatically select it. And then I can, create maybe like some levels, right? And it already has that mask, so I can just control the levels of, if I put it outside, the levels of that screen independently. So you can do a lot of tweaking just with this file that is created. You have the depth of field in a separate file, and you can also change the color. So if I double click on that, you can change this to absolutely anything you want. All right, so that's it for now. Cheers.